Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual meeting of North Tyneside Council's Cabinet. My name is Norma Redfern, and I'm the elected Mayor for North Tyneside. And I'll be chairing this Cabinet meeting. This is an extraordinary meeting of the Cabinet to consider Cabinet's draft proposals for the budget for 2021 to 22, which will be submitted to the full Council meeting on the 18th of February. Cabinet has also requested at this meeting to approve the final proposals for the 2021-22 Housing Revenue Account budget and associated business plan. I'd like to inform everyone that this meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube to enable the public to observe the proceedings, and I welcome anyone who is watching. Before we move on to the agenda, I would like to make it clear who is participating in the meeting. In order to check who's in the meeting, I would like everyone to present and confirm their attendance. First of all, I would call out the names of each of the Cabinet members. After I call out your name, please turn on your microphone and camera and introduce yourself. And of course, state your portfolio area. Councillor Bruce Pickard.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Bruce Pickard. I'm the Councillor for Riverside Ward and Deputy Mayor with responsibility for regeneration, planning policy, business and economic development.
Councillor Gary Bell.
Hello, good evening, Mayor. I'm Councillor for Kilmarnock Ward and I'm the Council Member for Adult Social Care.
Thank you. Councillor Carol Burtis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Councillor Carol Burtis. I'm the Cabinet Member for Community Engagement and Safer North Tyneside and Community and Voluntary Sector.
Thank you. Councillor Steve Cox.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Steve Cox. I'm the Cabinet Member for Housing.
And Councillor Sarah Day.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Sarah Day. I'm the Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Sport.
And Councillor Peter Early.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Peter Early. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children, Young People and Learning.
Councillor Margaret Hall.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Margaret Hall, Councillor for Whitley Bay and Cabinet Member for Public Health and Wellbeing.
Thank you. And Councillor Carl Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Carl Johnson. I'm the Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask the officers in attendance to introduce themselves. And after I call your name, I'm sure you can turn on your microphone and camera and please introduce yourself. Wendy Burke.
We have apologies from Wendy, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Right. Is Wendy Burke sent her apologies, has she, Dave?
She has done, Madam Mayor, yes.
Thank you very much. Bryn Roberts.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name is Bryn Roberts. I'm the Head of Law and Governance for the Council and I'm the Monitoring Officer.
Thank you. Janice Gillespie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Janice Gillespie. I'm Head of Resources and the Chief Finance Officer for the Authority.
Thank you. Jackie Lawton.
Hi, I'm Jackie Lawton and I am Head of Corporate Strategy and Customer Service. Thank you.
Thank you. And Council Notes, Mark Longstaff.
Good evening, Mayor and colleagues. My name is Mark Longstaff, Head of Commissioning and Asset Management within the Council.
Thank you. Jackie Old.
Good evening. It's Jackie Old and I'm Director for Children's and Adults.
Thank you. Phil Scott.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Phil Scott. I'm the Head of Environment, Housing and Leisure.
And John Sparks.
Good evening, everyone. My name's John Sparks. I'm Head of Regeneration and Economic Development for the Council.
And Dave Brown.
Evening, everybody. I'm Dave Brown from Law and Governance.
Thank you, everyone. I'm now going to ask David Beber from the business sector to introduce himself.
I don't think he's with us, Madam Mayor.
Yes, I can see it's lighting up. You just perhaps can't get through anyway. Is Janice Hutton with us? No. Roger Layton. No. Right. Now, is anyone else present who I've missed? No, thank you very much. Just let's refresh the etiquette for the meeting. Can I please remind everyone to mute their microphone and turn off their video unless they are speaking. For today's meeting, before we move on to consider the report, we must first of all deal with some formalities. First of all, let's have some apologies for absence. David, have we got any apologies?
We have apologies from Paul Hanson, our Chief Executive, Susie McKenzie, Young Mayor, Robin Fry from Voda, Dawn McNally, Age UK, and Wendy Burke, our Director of Public Health.
Thank you very much. And I think there's an apology from Councillor Ray Glendon as well. Thank you. Declarations of interest. Do any members wish to declare an interest in any items of business on this agenda? No? Well then, we're now on to the agenda, which is item 3. It's the 2021 to 2025 financial planning and budget process, and it's the Cabinet's draft budget proposals. And I would now ask Councillor Bruce Pickard to introduce this paper. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Before I speak to the report, can it be noted that there are a couple of corrections to be made? Firstly, a presentational issue, a change in table 9 in the general fund annex, which makes it clearer where the decimal places are. No values have changed and there's no impact on the budget. Secondly, in Appendix D3, prudential indicators, following through some technical changes to accounting for operating leases in future years, a double count has occurred. This has now been corrected, and again, there are no indications for the budget proposals. They'll all be put online after the meeting today. People will see them. Okay, thank you. I'm presenting this report tonight with our draft budget proposals developed in a period of significant uncertainty for financial planning and for local government. The draft budget sets out here will ensure that the authority continues to deliver the priorities set out in our North Tyneside plan, protect and improve the things which matter most to residents with no cuts to frontline services, drive forward the regeneration and ambitions for the whole of the borough, bring hope to residents and businesses to enable North Tyneside to recover and grow, tackle inequalities to ensure that no one is left behind, keep North Tyneside as a great place to live, work and visit, and ensure a sustainable medium-term financial plan. The 2021-22 budget is being prepared in exceptional circumstances, and there is a significant level of risk and uncertainty in relation to the level of funding that will be available for local government in 2021, 2022 and beyond. Key reforms to local government funding have all been repeatedly delayed. Nationally, the Comprehensive Spending Review, which would have set out the government's spending plans over the next 3 years, has been delayed. In November 2020, the government announced a one-year spending round for 21-22, and on the 17th of December 2020, published the Provisional Local Government Finance Settlement for 21-22. The Provisional Settlement confirmed the core spending power for local authorities will increase by 4.5% in cash terms in 2021-22. But Cabinet should be aware that the government's assumption is that to achieve this increase, all authorities will implement the maximum allowed council tax increase, which has been set at 5%. That is a 2% increase in the general council tax and a 3% increase for the adult social care precepts. In addition, the government has estimated that local authorities will have access to an additional $1 billion of social care resources in 2021-22. However, of this, 0.7 billion is assumed to be raised from the adult social care precept, and 0.3 billion has been identified as additional grant funding. As in previous years, the worrying feature of the provisional settlement is the increased reliance on increased council tax. 87% of the increase in core spending power for 21-22 is from assumed council tax increases and is accompanied by relatively low increases in grant funding. In recent settlements, governments raising local taxation has in the main been the government's short-term solution to the fact that there is still no sustainable settlement for local government or a route to pay for the rising demand and costs in social care. The elected Mayor and Cabinet's draft budget proposal presented here tonight therefore includes a proposed 1.99% general council tax increase and a 3% adult social care precept. In proposing this rise, the authority has moved to protect those who will be the hardest hit by providing discounts for council tax from one-off funding relating to the pandemic and by continuing the authority's work on poverty intervention. For the whole borough, the authority is directing those additional resources to important frontline services and investing in homes and jobs which will continue to make North Tyneside a great place to work, live and visit. The medium-term financial plan includes the cumulative impact of these increases and the subsequent financial years 21-22 to 23-24. I would now like to pass across to Councillor Burgess, who will give an update on the initial budget proposal engagement.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. As you will remember, I updated you all last year that the 2021 engagement approach would be slightly different because of the impact of the COVID continues to have on our ability to hold face-to-face meetings with residents. Despite this impact, we did agree to push on with delivering our engagement across December and January, as usual, and this is what we have done. We continued with the successful residents panel meetings we have held over the last 3 years by taking them online to ensure everyone was safe. And as you will remember, this in-depth sessions provide residents with an opportunity to gain an understanding of the council's budget and provide feedback. Residents repeatedly tell us that they like the opportunity to talk directly to elected members and officers to discuss proposals and get a greater understanding of how the council sets its budget and makes decisions. The opportunity was offered to all residents through joining the residents panel. As with each year, the session was publicised widely using a variety of routes, including working with our voluntary sector partners to help us reach participants, as well as an article in the council's magazine. We have this year continued to talk with our stakeholders groups, both internal and external, such as the North Tyneside Strategic Partnership, staff and trade unions. And I am pleased to say that the officers also attended a youth council meeting where our young people asked a lot of questions. We also consulted with the Working With group to make sure that our voluntary sector partners were involved. As we have always done in previous years, a questionnaire was available online. This year, we supported the survey by creating a video explaining the context and proposals, which was well received. Despite the challenges faced, we have increased our activity and have worked with more participants than last year. I am pleased to report that the feedback from residents about the way we engaged was very positive, and I am happy to say that despite the restrictions, the engagement activity was well received as always. And I now like to hand back to Councillor Pickard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burgess. At this meeting, Cabinet are required as part of the budget setting process to approve the housing revenue account budget. At this point, I'd like to pass across to Councillor Cox, who will give an update on the housing revenue account budget proposals which are being considered here tonight for Cabinet's approval. Thank you. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. I'm pleased to present to Cabinet the final proposals for the housing revenue account for 2021-25, which includes the 30-year HRA business plan and the HRA investment plan for 21-26. Even in these difficult times where the global community is facing the massive challenges presented by COVID, I believe we have plans for a balanced budget that addresses all the challenges ahead of us, whilst ensuring that our key policy priorities are protected. In presenting this budget, I think it's important to highlight that we work within a legislative framework which is set by central government, and 2021-22 will be the second year of a return to an annual rent increase based on the Consumer Prices Index, plus 1%, following 4 years of rent reduction of 1% per annum, which members will remember took almost £500 million out of resources for the 30-year business plan. Due to the impact of the COVID pandemic and the additional funding pumped into the economy by the government to try to protect jobs and businesses, the CPI rate of inflation, which was dampened down last year, in September, the CPI rate, which we used to base our rents on, was just 0.5% compared to the government targets of 2%. This resulted in a proposed rent increase of 1.5% for 2021-22. In monetary terms, this will mean for our tenants, this minimum increase will be 74p per week for a bedsit, up to a maximum of £1.64 per week for a new build 3-bedroom house, giving an average increase of £1.14 per week for those tenants not on benefit. Tenants on benefit will of course be protected from the rent increase, and other tenants who are struggling are helped through a number of different routes. For instance, as part of our financial packages to combat the impact of COVID, tenants can apply to the hardship fund, or as in previous years, can apply for discretionary housing benefit. Members will know the business plan and assumes an average rent increase of 3% per annum. So this change challenges us with that, as it will reduce estimated income over the 30 years by almost £45 million. A package of measures have been proposed to bring this gap, which will ensure that savings can be found, whilst protecting key policy priorities such as maintaining the decent home standard, supporting our tenants as they work through to grapple with the universal credit changes and welfare reforms, and identifying the resources necessary to fund the HRA element of Cabinet's affordable home strategy. This budget also proposes an increased service charge for garage rents of 1.5%. Each year, as the plans are reviewed, we continue to consider the most appropriate approach to debt management and the removal of the cap on HRA borrowing, which means we now have the ability to increase our debt levels if we choose to do so, subject to the same prudential borrowing rules that apply to the general fund. We continue to review the HRA business plan. In light of this and all options taken into account, there is no guarantee of additional grants available. The level of rental income that can be generated to finance the borrowing, the fact that the right to buy and current discounts are not changing, there is no increased flexibility in right to buy receipts proposed yet, and the availability of land and suitable schemes. Based on these considerations, I'm proposing, again, no change to our current approach to debt management. Even with this approach, we will still invest circa £50 million in new build council houses in the next 10 years to support the Mayor and Cabinet's affordable homes ambitions, while still reducing the debt level we are leaving to future generations. You will recall that April 2019 saw the Housing, Property and Construction Service within Environment, Housing and Leisure begin operations with the aim of providing more of the authority's repairs and construction needs. The first year of operation was highly successful and delivered significant benefits, which saw £1.5 million of revenue savings per annum built into the business plan, which enabled us to invest in new initiatives such as creating tenants' priority budgets of up to £500,000 per annum to address particular concerns raised by our tenants, with the initial focus on introducing a pest control service for tenants, property health checks, which are planned repairs rather than reactive maintenance visits to high maintenance properties, and improving the empty home standard. Just as important as the direct financial benefits that continue to accrue from the new service, it's important to work It's important work that continues to develop the local supply chain through the procurement frameworks. These working relationships are helping to protect the local economy and local jobs and strengthen our key council plan priorities to make North Tyneside a great place to live and work. Of course, we could not have foreseen we were going to be hit by a global pandemic so early into the creation of the new service. However, the service has taken a deep breath, stepped back and come forward with a new set of plans for the service delivery that are already producing significant results, while taking all steps to ensure the safety of our tenants and workforce. These COVID secure plans will ensure that to form the backbone of our service delivery in the short term and have been factored into the business plan. The impact of welfare reform is still continuing to roll out across the borough, and this has inevitably put pressure on rent arrears. It is strongly evident that tenants who are moving on to universal credit are struggling to keep on track with their rent payments. Last year, we identified resources from efficiencies gained from bringing the service back in-house and creating the HPC to expand on neighbourhood management and income collection teams. The COVID pandemic has delayed the appointment of a number of staff into the structure, but now that most posts have been filled, we should start to see the benefits of those additional resources. We know if we are proactive and with early financial inclusion measures and we provide targeted housing and benefits advice to support our tenants, it not only protects our rental income, but it provides support to our tenants in these difficult times, even more so during the pandemic. More resources are being directed to maintain our housing stock. In 2021-22, the Housing Investment Plan, which this budget will total over £26 million. Just under 24 million will ensure we maintain our homes to the decent home standard, with 600 new energy efficient boilers being installed, 678 properties benefiting from new kitchens and bathrooms, 227 roof replacements, new fire doors fitted to communal blocks for 55 communal blocks, external brickworks to 223 properties, boundary improvements to 830 homes, external decoration to 1,700 homes, with 100,000 being invested in footpaths and repairs and maintenance, and over £1 million on disabled adaptations to support tenants' continued independent living. As I referred to earlier, this budget also contains additional resources for new build housing, with 2.5 million available for 2021-22 for new build works to ensure we continue to deliver against the Mayor's affordable homes priorities. Significant increases identified in last year's plan, which will see up to 24.5 million of new build works being delivered in the next 5 years. 2021-22 will also see the continuation of the effective operation of North Tyneside Living Project, which has created excellent living accommodation meeting the aspirations of our tenants. And I'm pleased to highlight current tenancy levels are around 97%, which is an incredible achievement in these difficult times, given the number of units involved and the type of tenancies and the actions we have had to take to protect our tenants during the pandemic. The high level of occupancy has contributed positively towards the overall business plan position as well. To sum up, these budget proposals assure we have a balanced 30-year business plan, which will see £1.45 billion of investment in council homes and an estimated £1.25 billion being spent to maintain and improve our existing stock, and £195 million for new council housing over the next 30 years. I believe this is an affordable and prudent budget which invests in maintaining our homes to a good standard, takes into account tenant priorities, continues to contribute to the development of new affordable council housing in line with the Mayor and Cabinet's aspirations, is in accordance with national social rent policy and sees rent increases based on CPI plus 1%, and provides the support to our tenants who are struggling to manage the impact of welfare reform changes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Now, I would like to ask members or anyone have any questions. Can't see anyone's hand up. I'm going to ask members, have they got any comment? Oh, there was a hand up there. I don't know whose it is. Oh, it's David. David, do come in. Sorry about
sorry,
that.
mine is a comment. The North Tyneside Business Forum would like to thank Janice Gillespie, who gave a full presentation to the management group on the council's budget last week. We welcome the continued support from the council for businesses, both SMEs and larger ones. We were very encouraged by the work that's been done with the new combined authority and with the LEP, and it'd be remiss of us not to do it. We'd like to thank John Sparks and his team for the phenomenal support they've given the business community throughout the pandemic. As businesses, we get too much information, and George and team have been very good at filtering us to help businesses. So we'd like to note our thanks to John and his team tonight, please, Norma.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, much appreciated. Has anyone else got any questions before we go on to comments? Roger, would you like to come in?
Yes, I just wondered if you would be able to extend the same level of council tax benefit, if you can foresee that.
I'm sure Councillor Pickard could come in with that one.
Yes, we're using the winter funding and the benefits money we have so far to continue where we can on the council tax benefit scheme, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Roger.
Thanks.
Right, anyone else got any questions? Okay, can we now go on to comments? Does anyone who want to make any comments? Oh, Councillor Peter Early.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'd like to start by thanking Ray Glindon, our Cabinet Member for Finance, Janice Gillespie, the Chief Finance Officer, and her team, yourself, Madam Mayor, and all my colleagues in the Cabinet. I think there's some extraordinary work gone into this budget, given the terrible events that have been visited on us all by the pandemic. And I think it's a credit to this council, to this cabinet, that we've yet again been able to present a balanced budget, especially given delays to funding settlements from central government and the various unforeseen COVID pressures that we've had to deal with this year. I think this budget will allow us to continue to maintain services which are so important to our residents, and perhaps never more so than now, in particular to those who are amongst the most vulnerable in our borough. I understand the financial pressures that our residents face. However, in order to meet the needs of residents for our services, we have to adopt the government's funding plans in terms of council tax increases and increases to the adult social care precept. The government expects us to do this and has reduced our funding allocation accordingly with that in mind. I think that this budget proposal shows that as a council, we are ever mindful of delivering the best quality services we can to our residents in the most efficient way possible. And in delivering this budget, we will continue to meet the needs of our residents and serve the people of North Tyneside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Early. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just as Councillor Early just said, I'd like to pay tribute to Councillor Glindon, Janice Gillespie, and all of their teams, and all the cabinet members and officers that have been involved in this budget. It has been a very difficult year for all in our general lives, and in many people on this call and people around the borough have had a terrible year in terms of many have lost loved ones and others. The added pressure of the pandemic has certainly hit hard in terms of the budget this year, but I'm absolutely proud. I'm really proud of this cabinet, this council, and all of the officers to manage to present a financially literate, balanced budget that makes sense for the people of North Tyneside, that upholds the service levels that we currently have and extends them in many ways. It still continues to have a fantastic investment plan that invests in certain things that we want to see. We've got the North Shields regeneration coming on forward in the investment plan. We've got lots of things in the investment plan, lots of positive stuff coming forward. But the point of the factor is that this government includes this council tax rise in our base budget every year. It would be financially illiterate for us not to take that into account and to use reserve to plug things like this. This is just not what we can do. We've come up with the best budget possible that we can for the service, and I'm be proud of vote for this budget tonight. I really wish it was under different circumstances. I wish the government had kept their promises to do whatever it takes to bail local government out, but the fact is that they haven't, so we've had to come up with this budget and do the best we can for the residents of this borough.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Has anybody else? Councillor Gary Bell.
Yes, good evening, Madam. I'd just like to associate myself with my colleagues' comments. I think we have to remember the government have put that local government down and residents by not funding the local government settlement properly. They could have easily added extra additional money and there'd be no rise in council tax at all if they'd funded it properly, but they put the burden, as they normally do, back on the local councils. I must also congratulate my department, Adult Social Care, under the leadership of Jackie Old. It's been a pleasure to be the council member this year under very difficult circumstances and last year. For all the staff and all the volunteers and for all our residents, they've gone the extra mile and I'm very much appreciative of that. I think this budget is a good budget, and I think what residents have got to remember as well, the offer we give to our residents is our libraries, we own them. Our leisure centres, we own them. You know, we look after things and we keep ourselves, our parks, we own them. And I think for the borough, I think we have exceptional standards and we want to keep our things in-house where we can. And also we have an excellent relationship with business. We understand you have to bring business into the borough to generate money, which goes down, trickles down to help us with things like poverty and then raising standards and educational standards. So I fully endorse this budget and thank all my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Has anybody else want to comment? I'm looking. No. Do you want to come back in, Councillor Pickard?
No, I think everything's been covered by the comments we've just had.
Right, thank you very much. Before we go on to approving this, I just want to thank Councillor Glendon and Councillor Pickard and my cabinet members, and of course Janice Gillespie and her staff, because at the end of the day, to be quite honest, I think they did a tremendous job here tonight to bring before us a balanced budget, and the mere fact that we're not cutting any services. And what people don't understand is the fact that at this present time, I know we've got the vaccine coming in, yeah, but the pandemic hasn't finished. There's a long way to go before we actually can say we're out of this. So the pressures coming towards us as a council are tremendous. And I'm sure every resident in this borough wouldn't want to see our council become bankrupt or go over the cliff. I think for years we've been very proud of our council here in North Tyneside. I would also like to actually thank our residents. They've been amazing during these difficult times. And I've said this before and I shall say it again. We have some amazing residents out there who are doing amazing things to help those less fortunate ourselves. And I've had the pleasure of meeting them, and I want to thank them very much. And this council will continue to help those who are less fortunate ourselves. And the budget actually caters for that. So anyone who's in dire trouble and less need will always get support from our council, to be quite honest. And I would just once again like to say it has been amazing and very self-satisfying for all of us going through these difficult times, because in North Tyneside, the businesses, the voluntary sector, our people, our residents who have been volunteers have all come together to work together. And it's amazing what we've achieved. So don't let's underestimate or go back on what we've agreed to. We will continue to work to make North Tynes a great place to be and work. We will work hard with our residents and our businesses and our voluntary sector. And at the end of the day, we only want the best for everyone in North Tyneside. And this budget will enable us to do this. However, I know some people might be upset, but when the government gave us our allowance for the year, this year, yes, they gave us some money. We're very grateful of it, but it didn't cover the cost of what it has already cost us, to be quite honest. And we still haven't yet finished with the pressures we'll have to deal with. So I'm pleased that we've got this budget. I'm delighted that we'll have some reserves and we won't go over the cliff. We won't become bankrupt. Thank you to our Chief Financial Officer, who's kept us on track and ensured that we have a budget which is robust, but we're proud of. Thank you very much. So I just want to say to you now, thank you to Bruce for standing in tonight when Councillor Glendon couldn't attend. It is much appreciated. It's not easy just to jump in like that, but as usual, he does us proud. So to everyone, thank you very much. Can we approve the recommendations in this report, please?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. That concludes the meeting. Thank you all for attending. And of course, the public who've been watching the live stream. The next Cabinet meeting will take place at 6 p.m. on Monday, the 8th of February 2021. This will be an extraordinary meeting to consider Cabinet's response to any recommendations of overview and scrutiny following their review of the final budget proposals. Thank you very much indeed, and good night. Take care. Can the Cabinet stay behind, please? Thank you very much.